Thank you for joining us for our information session hosted by the Georgia Tech Supply Chain and Logistics Institute, an interdisciplinary research center working with groups across Georgia Tech and the business community to further initiatives focused on supply chain logistics, research, education, and outreach. As part of SCL's mission, we offer publicly available professional education courses around supply chain and logistics topics. You can find out more about us at www.scl.godtech.edu. We are joined by G. Sean Williams, Katrina Rivera, and some special guests. I'll hand the session over to G. Sean Williams, the Georgia Tech Professional Education Lead Instructor for our Procurement and Supply Management Leadership Series.
Hello, everyone. I'm G. Sean Williams. I'm a certified professional in supply management and have been in this industry for 21 years. It's hard to believe. The good thing about that is not a lot of things change. The bad thing about that is not a lot of things change. And so what I love about procurement and supply chain is you always have an opportunity to take a leadership role. And it's important in order to do that to have a good foundation as you're moving ahead in your career. And so we have some great contributors for this year's program, and we're going to talk about that a little bit later. But when you look at my background, it's been on the corporate side as well as divisional procurement, a little bit of supply chain, and ultimately being able to master these areas or these modules for the program in order to move ahead. Right now, I serve as the head of procurement for Floor Decor, leading up all indirect procurement. And in the past, I've had leadership roles at Bristol Myers Squibb and Pulte Homes, as well as Westvaco and Intel. And so that's a little bit about me. What's most important is more about the folks that are looking to take this program and advance their careers. If we take a look at the program, we talked about the areas of focus on the first page. We're going to get into those details. What I want to look at now is our partnership with ISM, the Institute for Supply Management. For those of you that are not familiar with the Institute for Supply Management, ISM has over 48,000 members worldwide, 149 affiliates and chapters as well. If you're not familiar with the group itself, you may be familiar with the report on business and the PMI. That PMI is actually used as an indicator. You look at how the global economy is doing, how the U.S. economy is doing. That purchasers management index is leveraged along with consumer confidence and housing starts, automobile sales, et cetera. And so the Institute for Supply Management is really focused on enhancing the value and performance of our profession, our procurement and supply chain practitioners globally. You can find more information about ISM as well as their forms and the ISM groups for benchmarking purposes on their website. So just a little bit about ISM. Let's talk about foundation and just make sure that we're level set. Procurement and supply management is really the art of finding, negotiating, and solidifying the purchase of goods and services. Okay, so we all know that. But once you find and you solidify those goods and services, how do you get it to where it needs to be? How do you get it to your plants? How do you get it to your manufacturing facilities or your commercial buildings? How do you get it to customers if you're in a distribution model? Right, so it's both sides of the coin. So we're going to talk about extensively the procurement and sourcing piece, but it's kind of hard to have excellence in procurement without having a good handle on logistics and materials management. If we were in class, I would challenge everyone on what is upstream and what is downstream. And so that's one of the beautiful things about this profession is, you know, you can be in this profession for 30 years and have never formally heard of those terms. It's okay. All right, so the thing about this program is that we'll level set and then we'll go into the more advanced topics very quickly. So upstream, downstream, we'll focus on that, but who is it for? Who is this program for? Regardless if you know what upstream or downstream means, the question is, who is this program for? So let's look at that. Management level professionals, if you're in a situation where you've taken a management role, and it doesn't matter, you may have realized that I don't even have a supply chain background, but I'm a great fit for this new role, and my company feels that way, then we are a great resource for you to accelerate your learning curve and build that foundation that maybe you don't have a formal supply chain degree. And so we'll help you with that. Senior managers, it's about training the trainer. And senior managers are in a situation where you are developing your team, you're developing your staff, and you want to make sure that they have a good foundation. And so great program for our senior managers. Our directors, I would say, fall into the same space. As you get to that director level, you're managing categories or super categories, and you're responsible for multiple category strategies. You're doing the strategic work, but you're also helping your team be able to execute on some of the day-to-day tactical items. You're looking at market intelligence on one side, especially with this COVID. Oh, geez. You're looking at what's going on with the post-COVID market. And then on the other side, you're focused on how do you just create a standard bid package template that applies to subcategories that you haven't sourced in a little while. And so regardless of where you're focused or why you're focused on certain things in your organization, it's a great program for directors to be able to enhance their learning curve as well as train the trainer for the directors to turn around and support their teams. And I think I've said it already, vice presidents, we have a lot of vice presidents that go through the program. Some with larger companies, again, maybe they don't have that background, that procurement and supply chain background for the last 15 years. Maybe they were in finance. Maybe they find themselves coming from the manufacturing side of the house. But ultimately, this program is really suited for all of the above. The question that is often asked, and we got some great contributors that are on the line with us today, so feel free, anyone, to chime in. The question is always asked is, what is in it for me? And so one of the things that I like to level set on is, well, what does the money look like? All right, so that's really important. If you're a little bit younger or you're an emerging practitioner and you're developing your career, or if you're in the leadership ranks and you're trying to figure out, do I compare with folks at other companies and folks that are doing the role that I'm doing? And this is a great, let's say, a starting point is the ISM 2020 salary survey. And so ISM takes a look at different roles and different levels, and multiple hundreds of people are providing the information that is the basis for these numbers. But it's we start all the way from the emerging practitioner, $78,000, $79,000 is where we're finding the average for that particular role. And that emerging practitioner could be a specialist, an analyst. It could be someone that's kind of in the space of or on the verge of becoming a sourcing manager. We have our experienced practitioner, maybe someone that has put in some years and they're making that jump in their career, and they're right on the verge as well, becoming a manager in the sourcing space. And then also our manager coming in at 116,000. And so if you find yourself in this space, then great, you're doing fine. If you don't find yourself in this space, then this type of program may be what you need to get you over the hump. All right. So our managers are 116, our directors, and so everyone can see the numbers there. But I think the most important thing to take away from this page is, what does it take? What skill sets, what disciplines, and what competencies are important for you to make sure that you're in line with what the industry is seeing? Ultimately, what are graduates better prepared to do? I'm not going to read this word for word. I think everyone can see it. I think the most important thing is when we went through, and we're still going through it, when we went through what we saw with COVID disruption to the marketplace, it really challenged us. We saw things that we've never seen before. I don't know about you, but walking into a Target, a large retailer like Target, and not seeing bathroom tissue on their shelf, that's when I realized that this is something that's real. And I realized that procurement and supply chain professionals have the opportunity to help really shape the survival of large organizations in the marketplace. You saw us on the news, you saw us on CNN, you saw procurement supply chain professionals on Fox News, on MSNBC. We haven't seen that historically on a day-to-day basis in our industry. And so the importance of our procurement and supply management leaders to be equipped to lead their organization has never been at a level that is at today. And so we have to maximize on that opportunity. It's not too late. And so we got to do some of the blocking and tackling. We have to make sure that we have a good arm around cost management. Do we have enough financial awareness and acumen to have the right conversations with finance? We got to negotiate. And I look at negotiations and say, this is both external and internal. We have to be able to lead our supply base and make sure that our suppliers are in a position where we're leveraging fully the capabilities that they bring to the table. But we also have to influence our stakeholders internally. What are we seeing in the marketplace, and can we bring that intelligence back into our organizations to have the right conversations with our plant managers? Can we bring that intelligence back into the organization to have the right conversations with our brand owners, et cetera? Bid package development, it's easy, right? Yeah, but maybe there's a category that pops up that you haven't sourced before, and you can't just copy and paste. So I love my profession. I love the professionals, but we do a great job of copying and pasting. And so what we need to add on top of that copy and paste is, do I really understand the words that are inside of this bid package? And does it apply to the suppliers that I'm sending it out to today? COVID has changed the landscape. Cybersecurity has changed the landscape. Enterprise risk, geographical sourcing, looking at different territories. There's so many things that over the years have changed the landscape of our profession and changed the landscape of how our company source. And we are really the front line to make sure that our companies are staying in tune with what's happening in the marketplace. Contract drafting, I kind of spoke to that a little bit. Same scenario with bid package development, but I get often I get, hey, I'm not sure why that clause is inside of this agreement. And that is not the way you want to negotiate with your supply base. And so from a legal perspective, we want to understand indemnification. We want to understand limits of liability, consequential damages, statute of limitations, state of jurisdiction, not only what they are, what they mean, but how does that apply to that category or that subcategory that you are sourcing in that moment? With that being said, there's also the operational components and there's the commercial components. Operationally, we got to be able to do the process map to understand what is the point of use in which this subcategory or this supplier is going to help my company. And do I understand? Can I foresee and envision how that supplier is going to be onboarded? Can I foresee and envision where that supplier could fail? And then commercially, I think commercially, I think that's an area that's most important. Probably one of the key areas that is the expectation of our organizations that we're going to bring it on a day in and day out basis is our ability to impact working capital, our ability to impact cash flow, our ability to save dollars. But it's not just about saving money. We also have to look at how do we enable revenue? How do we support FTE productivity? And if you don't know what FTE productivity is, then you definitely belong in the class. So you can just learn what that means, because that's very key to finance. How do we support our workforce and make them more efficient? And what does that mean? Maybe it's sunk cost. Maybe it's opportunities that we're trying to leverage. Well, let's figure all that stuff out in the financial analysis part of this program. So a lot of things that we're positioned to better prepare ourselves for in this particular program. So the next question is, well, how do we do that? And so we've broken this program out into 3 core modules. And so those 3 core modules are category management and sourcing leadership, contracting and legal oversight, and then essentials of negotiations and stakeholder influence. We can talk about this from a competency perspective, and we can list out 26 competencies and say, hey, you need to have all these 26 competencies. But most importantly is those competencies are embedded inside of these areas. We need to make sure that we have good oversight on our categories and our subcategories, and ability to lead our organization through sourcing initiatives. There may be some larger than others, some smaller than others. If it's, okay, this is a $25,000 agreement, I just need to put a vending machine inside of our corporate office for IT Pertheos. Okay, let me lead the business unit through what a contract looks like, and let me get a couple suppliers, and I'll manage that engagement from a high level. Or it could be a very complex, it's going to impact 150 stores, and you need to figure out CCTV because you haven't upgraded in the last 5 years. You need to figure out bandwidth issues because you haven't upgraded in the last 7 years. Right? So it can be very complex understanding of your category, or it can be high-level oversight, providing your business units with the ability to move quicker. Some of you guys are probably understanding and realizing how real this labor shortage is right now in the marketplace. So let's talk about contingent labor. How do you leverage contingent labor agreements the way that you probably haven't leveraged them in the past? Maybe your company has used 10% contingent labor in the past, and now you're at 50%. We can't find good labor. We used to have 2 or 3 contingent labor vendors. Now maybe you have 5 or 7, and you're trying to maximize the value out of each one of them. And so that's a category. We got to explore that category. Not only do we need to explore the suppliers in that category, but we need to understand what the marketplace has given us and how do we react to that. I'm sure our contributors have so much to say on that point, but I'll move forward and then I'll open it up to our contributors. But the contracting and legal piece, we have to be the forefront of risk mitigation. We have to manage risk. One of the best ways of doing that is manage it through the contract agreement. So we'll be very intimate inside of the program with the commercial elements of contracting, the operational elements, and then obviously the legal elements. What happens when a supplier goes bankrupt? Not everyone's going to withstand some of the impact that we have seen with COVID. Steel has gone up 120% in some of the key subcategories of steel. And not all suppliers are ready for that. They haven't been able to make the price increase adjustments. And in fact, you have prevented them. Your company has prevented them from passing those price increases through. And so are you doing that because it's the right thing to do for your company? Or could that potentially have a backlash that is unforeseen? So these are the type of things that we talk about. Steel is not the only category that we'll talk about that. We'll look at other categories as well. And then lastly, before I'll be quiet and open up to our contributors, is the essentials of negotiations and stakeholder influence. I talked about that earlier. We need to understand what's inside of the contract so we can negotiate it the right way. But then there's some of those tactics and tips that we need to talk about as well. The person that's sitting across from the table from me or sitting on Zoom that I'm looking at, how are they wired? And do they have the same approach that I have? Are we in this to win-win? Or does it appear that we're in this for a win-win, but really they're thinking, how can they gain an advantage and we lose? I don't know. And maybe we're both stuck in this situation. Maybe it's a mandated vendor that I'm working with that comes from one of our customers. And we'll talk about all of those different approaches inside of the essentials of negotiation and stakeholder influence, as well as your personal negotiation style. That's one of the areas that I love, is let's understand how you're wired. And some of us, I had a boss that wanted to pound of it. And my thoughts were, I'm actually just not wired that way. I'm more collaborative. Let's figure out what we're both looking for. And if we both win, then that's great. And so some of you are wired a different way than what your boss may want you to be. And that's okay. We'll figure out how do you embrace your style. It's important for us to understand how the class is structured. Obviously, what are the benefits that you get from the class? And so we'll start, just make it simple. There's stuff that needs to happen before class. There's stuff that happens inside of the class, and there's stuff that happens post class. The pre-assessment. All right, so let me talk about that. I think we get tons of questions on the pre-assessment. What is that about? Very simply put, we just want to understand where you are. We're not going to package that pre-assessment up and send it back to your boss and say, hey, look, this is how this person scored. It's more about being able to adjust the class accordingly based off of where the class is. And so we need to spend more time on bid package development. Then that's fine. We need to spend more time on financial analysis. That's fine. We need to spend more time on category assessments, and then we'll learn that from the pre-assessment.
And just to add really quickly, regardless of your score, it doesn't keep you from being in the class. So you don't have to score a percentage in order to continue on in the program. So that is literally just an internal pre-assessment for the instructor to understand where everyone is and where we may need to slow down or speed up in the program.
Absolutely. Great point. Great point. Yeah. There's leadership videos embedded, white paper studies. And so a great opportunity. If you don't feel like you're up to speed, you may feel like, okay, there's some other people in this program that might be a director and I'm only a senior manager. It's okay. We're going to make sure that we're all level set and aligned coming into the program. So that gets us to the actual class. And we like a lot of teamwork. There's going to be a lot of challenges. We're going to put you in breakout rooms and we're going to collaborate with your colleagues. We're going to collaborate with folks that you haven't met before. And so what I love about the collaboration of this program is that you walk in some situations, 12, 13, 15 strangers, you walk out and you have 15 people that you can benchmark with, right? And so that's one of the beautiful parts about the program. If you're studying for your CPSM or any of your other certifications, a lot of that pre-work and preparation is built into the program as well. And so we'll help make sure that you're understanding those acronyms, the terminology, and some of the foundational knowledge behind certain certification programs.
Hey, Jishan, I just want to note and reinforce that this class, the in-class, is not just lecture style. So I know we get frequent questions on how the actual environment is of the teaching, and we do like to have it as much as close as how we run it when we're in a face-to-face engagement. We tell people, don't get too comfortable in your seats because you will be moving. So if you are worried about some of that lecture style that we're just gonna be sitting there just learning, no, it's very collaborative and very engaging. So you can look forward to that, an engaging class.
Yeah, and speaking of which, we have Denton that has joined us, a graduate of the program, and have received his certificate here recently. Congratulations, Denton, on your achievement.
Maybe you can tell us a little bit about your experience in the class?
Yeah. So my name's Denton Lindow. I'm currently living here in Seattle, Washington. I work for Boeing Company. I've worked for other companies like Starbucks and Holland America Cruise Line. And I focus mainly on transportation, global transportation, but I really wanted to get more involved in the sourcing aspect. I do sourcing for transportation, but just a better understanding. And so that's what really attracted me to this program, the core classes of sourcing, contracting, and negotiating. And so I really enjoyed that aspect. Learning the best practices from Jishan, also, getting a chance to meet different people doing this type of work all over the country here. But also, like you said, you made it fun and enjoyable. So I really appreciate that. So.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. And just for the record, if you can just nod your head, people can't see you, but they'll trust you. We did not pay you for that, right? Just to confirm.
No. I mean, I'm a volunteer.
Thank you, Denton. We'll go to the next page and start to wrap up. And right, speaking of all-stars, Denton has gone through the program, and there's a group of folks that don't need to go to the program because they have lived it for the last 25 years of their career. Not all of them are on payroll yet. We still got some negotiations that are left to have. But I just want to acknowledge those that have graciously said, yes, I am interested in mentoring folks, emerging leaders that are coming through the ranks. We have a few on the line with us today, but you can see just a phenomenal group of procurement and supply chain leaders that we have put together, all from different backgrounds, different walks of life, different companies, different industries. And so the support for the program is extremely strong. And it's not just, one person talking for 40 hours. You definitely are not going to get that. The variety of feedback and the variety of approach and technique is great. And so I'll open it up to, I got a couple minutes, I'll open it up to any one of our contributors who want to say a couple words.
Well, first off, I am excited to be a part of this amazing program. As a leader in supply and strategic management, I think the things that we're going to cover really make the difference for professionals to be at the top of their class within their organizations and to really help growth and development as we look at professional opportunities, as well as going deeper within current roles. I'm excited because we always get to meet great people. I've sat in on a variety of the courses. So I'm looking forward to everyone's participation and the things that we learn in this journey together. I think that's the beauty of what we're going to talk about, is that they continue, iron sharpens iron. And there are things that I learned through this, even being in the field for 20 so years, that I look forward to. And I think it's a great teaching environment and team and process overall. So kudos to everyone that moves forward in this program.
I think Nathan Childs, you're going to say?
Yeah, I'll just comment. The program content is incredibly relevant today. I mean, the preparation that the students will get with cost management in this environment with incredible inflation, the ability to manage cost and supply chain resilience is incredibly important. And the content of the courses really seems incredibly relevant for the challenges that procurement professionals face today. So it's a great program.
Yeah, as Nathan, as we were speaking, I was just thinking about the essence of this program and your career and the trajectory that you had early and where you are today and how you're leading this industry. This is perfect. I mean, we got a phenomenal group of leaders that have volunteered to be a part of this. I'm not even going to get into Rose and Crystal and it just keeps going. Alan, who couldn't make it, Shelly, everyone knows he's a legend in this industry. And so just a phenomenal group of contributors. So thank you, Nathan, and thank everyone, Ralph and Crystal. I know, Rose, you're on the line as well. And so I appreciate your guys' time.